You know that feeling when everyone in your life thinks they know who you are, but you're the only one who knows the truth? Imagine being painted as the selfish, ungrateful parent in every family group chat. Every holiday dinner, every whispered phone call, and knowing that the person spreading those lies is your own son. For years, your relatives look at you like you're the villain from some Reddit AITA family drama thread, while your son plays the innocent victim who survived you. Then one day you finally get your hands on proof screenshots, bank records, messages, all the receipts that show he's been lying about you, using you, and stealing from you. So you decide you're done staying quiet. And you expose him in front of the entire family in one brutal, undeniable moment. But when the truth finally comes out, who do you think they choose to believe? My name is Karen. I'm 58 years old. And if this sounds like one of those crazy Reddit stories about toxic family and satisfying revenge, I promise you this was my real life. I spent most of my adult years being the responsible one. It's a single mom who held everything together with duct tape and coffee. My ex-husband walked out when our son Jason was 5, leaving nothing but overdue bills and a note about how he needed to find himself. I didn't have time to find myself. I had to find rent, food, and a way to raise a little boy who looked at me like I was his entire universe. From the outside, people love to call us inspiring. You know the type of real-life story everyone likes to share? The hardworking mom, the sweet little boy, the emotional story about sacrifice and love. But behind the scenes, it wasn't cute. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep the lights on. I skipped meals, skipped sleep, skipped buying anything for myself that wasn't absolutely necessary. My clothes were always secondhand. My car was always one breakdown away from dying, and my bank account balance gave me anxiety every single day. Still, I never let Jason see how scared I was. I wanted him to have a better life, to grow up without feeling the constant panic I lived with. I encouraged him, pushed him to study, to dream big. I thought we were a team. And honestly, when he was younger, he was sweet. He would hug me and say, "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a house so you never have to worry again." I believed him. I poured everything I had into that dream. But that was only the beginning. As Jason got older, something changed. It started small. He'd roll his eyes when I reminded him about homework, or make jokes about how I was so dramatic about money. When he was a teenager, he started hanging out with kids who had a lot more than he did. Nicer clothes, new phones, parents who could buy them cars at 16 like it was nothing. Instead of appreciating what he had, he started resenting me for what I couldn't give him. I remember one night when he was 16, we were sitting at the kitchen table going over bills. And he wanted the latest gaming console because everyone else had one. I tried to explain that I couldn't afford it yet, that maybe if I picked up some extra hours, we could save. He slammed his fist on the table and shouted, "If you weren't so bad with money, we wouldn't be poor." That line stuck in my chest like a knife. I had worked myself to the bone for this kid, and suddenly I was the problem. Over the years, that attitude hardened. He learned very quickly that if he painted me as the bad guy, other people would rush to comfort him. My own sister, his Aunt Linda, started giving him money behind my back because he complained that I was controlling and stingy. He told her I kept all my money for myself and never did anything for him. She never asked me if it was true. It was easier to believe the emotional story of the poor, mistreated son than the exhausted mother who always looked tired and worn out. Then she did something I'll never forget. When Jason turned 18, he announced he was moving out. He said he was tired of my rules and wanted freedom. I was scared for him, but I knew I couldn't stop him. I helped him pack, gave him what little savings I had put aside, and told him he could always come home if things got hard. He hugged me, said he loved me, and promised he'd visit all the time. He didn't. Instead, he started building a new version of our life without me. At first, I only heard bits and pieces through the family grapevine. It's comments like, "Well, you know." Jason didn't exactly have an easy childhood, or he's doing so well. Considering everything he went through with you, I'd ask, what's that supposed to mean? And they'd backpedal saying, oh, nothing, just, single moms, it's hard. There was always something slippery in their tone, like they knew something I didn't. Then one day, my cousin sent me a link to a post. It was on some anonymous forum, the kind you'd see on our relationships or Reddit AITA. The title read, AITA for cutting off my toxic mom after years of emotional abuse and financial manipulation. My stomach dropped. As I read the story, my hands started shaking. It was Jason's life. Our life, twisted. In the post, he described a mom who screamed all the time, who spent money on herself while her son went hungry, who sabotaged his opportunities out of jealousy. He said I intentionally kept him poor so he would never leave me. He talked about how he had to escape a toxic family situation and go no contact for his own mental health. He even wrote that I stole his college fund to pay off my credit card debt. I never stole a penny from him. There was never a college fund. There was just me, juggling overdue bills and hoping I could survive long enough to see him graduate. But what shocked me even more was the comments. Thousands of strangers praising him for his bravery, calling me a monster, telling him he was right to go no contact with such an entitled, abusive parent. They told him to block me, to never look back, to protect his peace. I wanted to scream, to respond, defend myself. But he never used real names, never gave details that would point to me directly. It was a betrayal story crafted to get sympathy, and it worked. This was the first time I realized my son wasn't just lying to his family. He was lying to the entire internet. What happened next shocked me. A few months later, I got a letter from the bank. At first, I thought it was another boring statement. Instead, when I opened it, my vision blurred for a moment. It was a late payment notice on a credit card I didn't recognize with my name on it. Not only that, but there was a line of transactions I had never made. Bars, electronics, online gaming purchases, food delivery, gas stations across town. The balance was in the thousands. My hands went cold. I went to the bank in person, hoping it was some mistake, some fraud that could be fixed. The woman at the desk pulled up my information and told me, in a matter-of-fact voice, that the card had been opened 2 years ago with my name, my social security number, and my address. 2 years ago, when Jason had still been living with me. They pulled the application, the email linked to the online access. It was Jason's. My son had opened a credit card in my name, used my identity, maxed it out, and never paid a single cent. I walked out of that bank feeling like the floor under my life had cracked open. Not only had he lied about me to strangers and family, he'd been quietly destroying my financial future behind my back. That bad with money narrative he'd been spreading. He had manufactured it by making me look irresponsible on paper. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every moment I defended him. Every time I'd told people he's just stressed or he's still young, he'll grow out of it. I thought about the nights I stayed up late sewing his clothes, checking his homework, comforting him when his dad didn't call. All of it thrown away so he could play the victim in his own revenge story against. What? Poverty. Responsibility. Me. The bank told me I could file a fraud claim, but that it would likely involve pressing charges against my own son. I hesitated. For days, I stared at the paperwork. One part of me whispered, "He's still your baby." The other part replied, "Your baby is treating you like a faceless target, just another entitled person he can use." I didn't sign. Not yet. I needed to understand how deep this went. Then she did something I'll never forget. My sister Linda invited me over for a talk. I thought maybe she finally wanted to hear my side of the story. Instead, when I walked into her living room, I saw Jason sitting there, arms crossed, surrounded by relatives. It was like an intervention, except I was apparently the problem. Jason wouldn't look at me. My aunt glared. My uncle cleared his throat and said, "Karen, we're all worried about the way you've been treating Jason. He's told us what's been going on. The emotional abuse, the manipulation, the way you control him with money." I laughed. A harsh, humorless sound. Control him with money. He stole my identity. "I just got a bank notice for a card he opened in my name." Linda shook her head. "He told us you'd say something like that you'd make yourself the victim." That's classic toxic family behavior. Something broke in me in that moment. Years of swallowed tears, silent sacrifices, all of it turned into a quiet, focused rage. I realized they weren't just misinformed. They wanted the story to be true. They wanted a villain. I fit the role better than accepting that Jason might be lying? Fine. If they needed proof, I'd give them more proof than they could handle. But that was only the beginning. I went home and pulled out everything I had. I requested full records from the bank, including the original credit card application with his email and IP address. I went through our old messages, screenshots, chats where he'd literally asked for my social security number, saying he needed it for a job application. I dug up old texts where he thanked me for paying his rent, his phone, his car insurance. Every time he called me the best mom ever when he needed something. Every time he promised to pay me back and never did. While I did this, I checked his social media. He'd built an entire persona online as the survivor son of a toxic mother. He posted clips of Reddit AITA-style stories that were clearly based on our life, edited to make me look like the villain. He was gaining followers, sympathy, even donations from strangers who wanted to support him after escaping an abusive family. He turned my sacrifices into content, into entertainment. That was the moment I stopped feeling guilty. Whatever revenge I was about to take wasn't petty. It was self-defense. The opportunity came faster than I expected. My mother, Jason's grandmother, was turning 80, and the family planned a big party. Everyone would be there. Jason, too. I knew because he posted about it online, going back to my toxic family's house. "Pray for me," with a dramatic selfie. The comments loved it. More Reddit stories in real life. IRSVPD. Yes. The night of the party, I walked in wearing the oldest dress I owned, the one everyone liked to make fun of because Karen never buys anything new. Let them think I was still the poor, pitiful, ungrateful mom. I carried a small folder in my bag. My heart was pounding, but my mind was calm. This was my real-life revenge story, and I was done playing the quiet extra in my own life. For a while, everything looked normal. People chatted, ate, laughed too loudly. Jason was there, of course, at the center of a group of younger cousins, telling another emotional story with animated hand gestures. When he saw me, he stiffened, then plastered on a fake smile. "Hey, Mom," he said, loud enough for people to hear. "Glad you could make it." I smiled back. Wouldn't miss it. As the night went on, little comments floated my way. "I hope you're being nicer to Jason these days. He's been through a lot. You know, you should be proud of him for cutting off toxic people." Every remark was a knife dipped in sugar. Then came the moment. My sister clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Before we cut the cake, Jason wants to say a few words about Mom," she announced. Of course he did. He loved being the hero in his own narrative. He stepped forward, grabbed the mic, and started talking about healing and breaking cycles and forgiving the people who hurt you when they didn't know better. It sounded like every Reddit AITA speech mashed into one. There were a few emotional gasps from the crowd. He threw in a couple of lines about how grateful he was for the extended family who helped him when others didn't. I let him finish. I let him bask in their sympathy. Then I stepped forward. "Mind if I say something?" I asked. The room went quiet. Jason's jaw tightened. "This isn't really the time, Mom." But my mother, bless her, said, "Let her talk." So I did. Without my knowledge. Maxed out over 2 years by someone who lived in my house, used my address and linked it to his email. I turned the paper so the front row could see. That email belongs to Jason. The silence in the room shifted. Few people leaned in. My aunt squinted, her mouth slightly open. Jason went pale. This, I continued, holding up another sheet as a log of transactions. Not one of these matches my life. I don't drink. I don't drive across town for gas at 2 in the morning. I don't buy online game credits. But someone did. Using my name. I took a breath. The bank told me I could press charges. Against my own son. Linda stepped forward, face red. Karen, that's enough. You're humiliating him. I looked at her calmly. He's been humiliating me for years. Just not to my face. Then I pulled out the final set of papers. Printed screenshots of the Reddit-style posts and social media content he'd created. Here, I said, my voice tight but clear, are the stories he's been posting online. About his abusive, controlling, financially manipulative mother. About growing up poor because she was bad with money. About how he escaped his toxic /core. Family, thousands of strangers calling me a monster. Sharing my life as a betrayal story, a piece of entertainment. Meanwhile, he was using my identity to ruin my credit and then blaming me for being broke. I put the mic down for a second, letting the weight of my words settle. People started whispering. My uncle picked up one of the papers, reading it with a frown. My mother stared at Jason with tears in her eyes. Jason finally snapped. This is out of context. You're twisting everything. You always do this. You make everything about you. He reached for the papers, but my cousin blocked him. Is that your email? My cousin asked, pointing at the application. Is this your account? Are these your posts? Jason stuttered. It's complicated. You don't understand what it was like living with her. I picked the mic back up. You're right. They don't understand. They don't know what it's like to work 3 jobs so your son can eat, only for him to steal your identity. They don't know what it's like to be called toxic by your own child because you couldn't afford to give him the life his rich friends had. They don't know what it's like to watch him turn your pain into content. I took a deep breath. So here's what's going to happen. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I have 2 options. Press charges for identity theft or sign a fraud affidavit that will put everything on record. Either way, Jason, this is no longer just a private family drama. This is legal. The room erupted. Some people started talking at once. My mother put her head in her hands. My aunt tried to calm Jason down, but he was spiraling, yelling about how I was ruining his life and how no one ever believed him. It was a Reddit AITA meltdown in real time. So if you've ever been turned into the villain in someone else's narrative, if your sacrifices have been erased and your pain turned into entertainment, I want you to hear this. You are allowed to defend yourself. You are allowed to tell your own story. You are allowed to stop being the silent character in someone else's lie. Let me know in the comments what would you have done in this situation. And don't forget to subscribe to Golden Years Diary for more stories like this.